Hey, this is Dr. Jack Wolfson, cardiologist, and welcome again to another episode of the Healthy Heart Show. And it is my honor and privilege to interview the lead nutritionist at thedoctorswolfson.com and in our office in Arizona, Miss Ashley Swanson. Ashley, so great to have you on the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So tell me a little bit about you as far as your background. Tell me, I want to know everything. Audience know everything. Where were you born? Where did you grow up? And then ultimately how and why you became a nutritionist, a master's in nutrition from Iowa State University. You tell me.
Yeah, so the whole bio. I was actually born in Arizona, and then I went to school in Iowa, and I got a scholarship to Iowa State University in Ames, Iowa, and I studied culinary science. So my bachelor's of science was in culinary science. It was a science degree. It was biochem, microbiology, food chemistry. I really wanted the science of it all. And then I decided I wanted to go on, and I wanted to get my master's in nutrition. So I knew I ultimately wanted to help people, and I knew I wanted the strong science, but I also knew I wanted to go on a holistic path. But to get there, I wanted that science because in order to make those holistic health decisions, you need to understand how things work in the body, the physiology, the biochemistry. So I got all that from Iowa State. My master's, again, was in nutritional neuroscience. So it was kind of a novel field. They had just brought on a new neuroscientist for a professor, and nutrition departments were starting to understand that, neuroscience is really based in nutrition because that's going to dictate what happens to the brain. So I was really fortunate to be able to learn about the brain and study Alzheimer's disease. My research was based on understanding how inflammation of the brain increases Alzheimer's disease risk. And so we found a protein that was a beneficial protein or biomarker, something you can measure in the brain that predicts disease risk. And we found that it predicts memory decline and how much the brain breaks down or atrophies over time. So our research was kind of novel, and it was fun to do because at the time there really wasn't a lot of really good diagnostic techniques for Alzheimer's disease. And so we were funded because they wanted to find biomarkers, things you can measure in the blood or the cerebrospinal fluid that they could, measure over time. So at 40, if somebody had elevated levels or low levels of a biomarker, they could say, hey, what can we do now to prevent this disease from getting worse?
So what biomarkers are we talking about?
So the biomarker I found was called NPTX2, and it was a protective biomarker. So the more you had, the less inflammation, the better memory you had over time, the less breakdown of brain regions. So we found that with diet, an anti-inflammatory diet, you could protect that and boost levels of it. With exercise, you could boost the levels of it. With things like education, like learning new things, reading books, doing puzzles, that would also boost it because it would form new connections in the brain. So all those things kind of set the stage for me coming to join you at the office, and I think it was kind of a nice transition going from Alzheimer's to cardiovascular disease because there's a lot of overlap there. And ultimately my goal all along has been to help heal people from disease using food and nutrition. And this is why I'm so happy I get to work in the office every day, and I get to see people come off of pharmaceuticals and heal themselves and go on their way just with simple diet and lifestyle modification. So I'm passionate about helping patients here in the office every day and getting to the root cause of disease.
Well, I think you made a great point too, is that whether we're talking about Alzheimer's dementia, we're talking about cardiovascular disease, hypertension, atrial fibrillation, or we're talking about autoimmune, doctors are really good at coming up with labels. We're really good at pigeonholing someone. Hey, you have these complaints or symptoms, and you have these signs of illness, therefore you have this label, and then there's this label. But as someone like you knows, obviously, that it's so fundamental that the nutrition, it's about sleep, it's about sunshine, it's about their lifestyle. And when you have health and wellness and you're doing all that, then we can reverse anything, whether it's the biomarkers that you're talking about. By the way, is the biomarker that you studied, is that something that's commercially available for people to study on their own, or it's still research?
It's still in research, but it's really set the stage. A lot of like medical doctors have contacted me and my professor saying, hey, we want to start using this in medical settings and hospitals. So it's been really cool to be a part of, but just stay tuned for it.
All right, so fantastic. So, but tell me again, just out of interest, and as far as, so Ashley Swanson, she's a freshman in high school, and she's deciding, she's like, somebody asked me what I want to do with my life, and what is the young Ashley Swanson? What does she want to do? And once again, how did you decide to do nutritional sciences?
Yeah, I knew all along I wanted to help heal people. I don't know, since I was little, I loved food and I love nutrition. So I was fortunate enough to love science as well. And so my mom raised me very holistically as well. I had a lot of homeopathic doctors, essential oils, healthy food, living out whole foods, all those things. So that kind of set the precedence for it. And then I fell into it at Iowa State. I fell into the science of it. And then I decided, things just kind of aligned, and then I found you. So I just knew I wanted to help people ultimately.
You're so lucky, obviously, that you were born into the world you were born into, with your mom, and really just right from the get-go, holistic health and wellness and healing. And that's so, so important. And that's what we're really trying to, what we're trying to train in our office and by podcast is really to bring in this message to the world. So everybody's mom start off their child from day one in the most healthy way possible. And even before day one, while they're in utero, and even before conception, before the baby is, as they say, a twinkle in the parent's eye, to put them on a path to health and wellness, to give them the best chance, because we see so much sickness. Yet if you do so in the beginning, that's where all the prevention is. Tell me, what's the difference between, because a lot of people will ask this, so I will ask it, the difference between someone who's got a master's in nutrition or someone who is a dietitian?
Okay, good question. And I get asked that a lot. So a registered dietitian is usually a 4-year degree. I think they're changing it to include a master's. But registered dietitians can also go on to get their master's in nutritional science. So when I got my master's, all the other students were registered dietitians. I was one of the few, one of 3 maybe, who just was getting a degree in nutritional science. Registered dietitians are different. They have accreditation through the Academy of Dietetics. And so they're a little more governed based on kind of government principles, food guide pyramid, my plate. They're restricted in what they can say because they are having those credits through that academy. And so I did want that freedom. I wanted to jump into holistic health. So I knew I just, again, wanted that science. I wanted a master's in nutrition so that I could work here. I could teach nutrition. But I didn't want to be limited in what I could really recommend to people. I didn't want to recommend patients drink milk for calcium. I didn't want to recommend those sorts of things.
Yeah, I totally understand that. And obviously in my career, I have never really had a good experience with dietitians, working with them in the hospitals or in the public arena. Yet whenever I met a nutritionist, there was always, there was just congruence there. Again, it's like, it's kind of like their side and there's our side, per se, and they're going to follow my plate and the food pyramid and the government guidelines that are all written by big agriculture and big pharma, where they're like, yeah, make sure you get 3 servings of Cheerios, for breakfast. And then you got the nutritionist over here and like, no, don't eat Cheerios. They're loaded with pesticides and glyphosate and new information that just came out. But once again, I think, and I know you know this as well, that even amongst the dietitians, we can find some good ones that are kind of more in line of thinking, with us. And that's why you got to interview those people and decide who you want to work with. So I'm out there in the world and I know that I need help with nutrition. I know that I'm overweight. I know that I've got food addictions, maybe. I know that food has not been my friend. How do I find a nutritionist And what should I look for in a good nutrition?
Yeah, you can obviously go to Google and search that way. A great thing, of course, is I'm here in the office, so you trust Dr. Wolfson, you trust the doctors Wolfson, you can come find me here. And of course, looking for a nutritionist that kind of aligns with your beliefs again. So if you're not wanting to go down that path of drinking milk every day and, not eating certain things or eating certain things based on what a registered dietitian would recommend, you can look for a holistic or integrative nutritionist. And so, nutritionists they are experts in food and nutrition, and they're helping to make the right food choices for patients and address eating behaviors and separating fact from fiction when they're planning menus. So all nutritionists, if they've been trained well in school, they can do that. But I think the key is to, these days, and especially what we practice here in the office, is to look for a nutritionist that's an integrative nutritionist or a functional medicine nutritionist, which I would say that I am here in the office. So that type of nutritionist is going to do all those same things, but they're going to be more specialized in the field of functional medicine. So I get to work with you every day with patients. And so the philosophy is really a holistic, personalized, individualized nutrition care. Because, of course, it isn't a one-size-fits-all model. It has to be tailored to the individual because of, again, in functional medicine, we're looking at the whole body, not just different, specific aspects. And so we have to take into account what that person has been exposed to throughout their life, how they've been raised, what they've eaten every day, because all those things will go into play in determining what their health condition is.
And I obviously agree with, with all that. And I think it's so important for people to hook up with a nutritionist, and whether it's with us, the doctors Wolfson, or even if you do go to Google and you search for nutritionist in your area, I think that is a good place to start. I think that the ability to speak with someone and also kind of interview them, and maybe,
that's a great point.
Let's spend 15 minutes talking to each other and decide how we want to work together. There's probably some nutritionists out there that are kind of really my way or the highway thinking, and like, this is my program, this is what's worked. Yet I think a lot of what you're saying is that what you really try and do is that you really try and gauge where the person is at and work with them to decide what kind of program that we can develop with them individually. Because once again, all of us are coming to the table with our own set of issues, and we're going to need help in a very unique way. So when you do interview someone in that 15 minutes, kind of like, what are you looking to get towards? Because I know you're not going to all of a sudden plop down and say, well, okay, here's all the menus, here's what you're going to always avoid, here's what you're definitely want to eat a lot of, because once again, some people will take to that approach really well. How does Ashley Swanson kind of go over things in that 15 minutes? What are the things you're asking, and what's important to you?
Yeah, well, that's a great point too. And of course, hopefully people can learn from what I'm saying. I practice here and they can think about that. And when they're looking for a nutritionist in their area, maybe they can apply those things there. But, in those initial 15 minutes, it's kind of diving into the complex kind of interactions, interrelationships that have happened in someone's life, looking to really discover the origins or the root cause of their illness, taking down all those different factors. It's not just diet, it's, their lifestyle, how much sunshine they had, their stress level, those sorts of things. So it kind of ties into my role. I do health coaching and nutritionist work here, but it really has to be a holistic approach, even with nutrition, is what I'm trying to get at.
Well, I think, to your point is that, you do have to have that additional training is certainly very good, but even just the common sense of understanding it's not just about the food, because if people have very poor sleep patterns, well, when you sleep poorly and you are awake every night at 2 o'clock in the morning because you can't sleep, you're not looking for a broccoli salad. You're looking for some starchy carbs, some quick sugar, and that of course just leads to that spiral where now you can't sleep. Or if you're under stress, typically when you're under a major amount of stress, you're not looking for healthy foods. You're looking for those comfort foods.
And you're depleting all your B vitamins. So just sort of, yeah, exactly. Good point. But there's different life circumstances that are either going to cause you to make certain nutritional decisions or, you know, deplete key micronutrients. So
where do eating disorders come into a discussion with a patient? Because I know sometimes over the years, of course, and I've seen tens of thousands of patients, and you're taking a history on someone, and then they kind of talk about this history of an eating disorder. Now it becomes, or they were labeled with an eating disorder. So now the conversation always becomes a little more difficult because you realize that maybe they've got some underlying obsessive compulsive issues. So how do you work with someone with a history of an eating disorder? And in some ways, do all of us have some mild eating disorder?
Yeah, that's a good point. And it kind of depends on the individual. But of course, it goes kind of towards, you know, food behavior therapy, really sitting down and trying to understand, you know, what's happened in their life, what circumstances have caused them to want to eat the way they do, because it really has an emotional component to it, a mental component. So again, that's going in line with, it's not just nutrition. There's a lot of underlying factors like the emotion, how they were raised, that sort of thing. So a lot of times, you know, we can work on that together if the patient is willing, but if not, they may need to see a therapist or, you know, something along those lines to help facilitate and move us forward faster. But yeah, that would probably be my biggest thing, is we just have to have that initial consult and kind of go from there. And to your point, I don't know. I would say a lot of us do have our own issues. And again, we may have some sort of an eating disorder, whether that's, you know, binge eating or emotional eating or, you know, the other end of the spectrum, which is anorexia. But it just kind of depends on, you know, where we're at in life, I would say.
Why is it that some people can have a teaspoon of ice cream and they're good, and others of us that have to eat a whole pint or more until all the ice cream is gone?
Yeah, I would say that's definitely an example of binge eating. You know, if we're miserable in life, if we're not happy in our job, if we're stressed and we weren't given those proper coping skills and to understand, you know, step out of our bodies and say, hey, we don't need to eat to feel better, or at least eat crappy food to feel better. We can eat healthy food, and when we eat those good foods and we're feeling good. And I mean, that kind of goes in line with what we do here too. You know, if you have leaky gut syndrome, you're not feeling good, your brain's not working properly, those neurotransmitters aren't firing, you may not be cognizant of what's going on either. So it's kind of having compassion for patients, and again, working with their labs, but also working with their emotional, mental history to understand why they're having those food eating patterns.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Give me 3 foods that everybody should be eating more of, but they're not. What are those 3 foods?
I would say fermented food. So we want a lot of those good microbes getting into the gut to heal the gut. I would say dark leafy greens, so full of antioxidants, phytonutrients, going to protect the heart, lower inflammation, help to heal the gut and the heart. And let's see, I would say probably also prebiotic foods. So those are going to go hand in hand with fermented foods, but prebiotics are the fuel or the fiber that fuels those good microbes. So leaky gut is really root cause for a lot of things. So getting all that beneficial nutrition into the gut is going to heal the body, heal the heart.
All right, so you mentioned prebiotics. Give me some prebiotic foods.
Well, some easy ones that that people don't think of would be like onions, leeks, those sorts of things. Those are things you can add in every day to the meals you're cooking. Of course, you have fibers, which are also prebiotics. So, you know, bananas have a good source of prebiotics, especially the green ones, those sorts of things. Artichokes are actually a really good source as well.
What about green banana powder? Do you see that in the supplements aisle at the natural grocer? You see them online, people talking about a green banana powder. I would assume that they're selling that, obviously, because it's a fantastic prebiotic.
Yeah, and it makes it easy. Pop it in your shake. A lot of our patients actually use that when they're healing the leaky gut. So that's a great option.
Organic,
Yeah.
always.
That's always key.
Give me an example of a food that they tell us is healthy, but it's really not.
Yeah, well, I always go back to milk, of course, because that's kind of, on the my plate, dairy. Milk is like the biggest component, of course, funded by dairy industry. I would say it's not healthy, of course. Obviously, your pasteurized, homogenized milk is toxic, it's allergenic, it's highly inflammatory. And of course, along those lines, you actually don't need that much calcium. So the recommended dietary allowances that say people need this much calcium, well, you actually don't. And there's also other nutrients like we know of here in the office that you need if you are intaking calcium sources.
Yeah, I wish in this podcast and this interview that'll be on YouTube, I wish we could actually, kind of sub in the my plate or the food pyramid so people can see the monstrosity of what that is in real time as we're talking about it. On what planet could these people that created these documents and these figures, what could they have been on where they would think that the dairy slice of the pyramid or of the pie or of the plate should be bigger than the vegetable part of it? Where would you come from this? And once again, our ancestors never consumed dairy. If you went after another, of course, they had their mother's milk, they had human breast milk,
right,
but they never had the milk of another animal. Can you imagine if you tried to approach an elephant and try and milk the elephant or a giraffe or a horse or even the precursor to a cow?
Right.
They were called like Orax or something like that. I mean, those things would stop and kill you because you'd be coming up to try and get their milk, and they have milk because there's a baby nearby. You will get nowhere near a lion or a tiger trying to milk it.
Yeah, that's a great point. No.
Okay. This has all been fantastic information. Obviously, we know that people can find you at thedoctorswolfson.com. They can Google a nutritionist in their area. Of course, you don't have to work in person with a nutritionist. All of our stuff is typically done by phone or by Skype or by interviews as we are. And really also, the accountability factor, just, hey, I'm a nutritionist and I'm your friend. I'm here to help you. I'm here to guide you. I'm here to work with you in your life to really get you the best results.
Exactly. Yep. That's what we're here for, is that support is what it is. So helping to assess, to intervene, to educate you, and to guide you to ultimate health and healing. Because when you're not feeling well, it's hard to do things on your own as well. So we're here for that.
All right. Well, we're so appreciative to have you with the Doctors Wolfson, Ashley, and it's a pleasure to have you on the Healthy Heart Show. Thank you again for coming on. This has been another episode of the Healthy Heart Show with Dr. Jack Wolfson, board certified cardiologist, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you.